I'm not going to sit here and bore you with a super long intro. If you clicked on this video, chances are you know what a draft grades video is. And if you don't, I'll run it down for you real quick. Pretty self-explanatory. Basically, we're going team by team, talking about the draft. I'm going to assign a letter grade to every single pick and then give an overall grade for the team in question. Going to be talking about all 32 teams over the summer. That's my big twist that I put on it. Not exactly reinventing the wheel, but not a lot of people give each team their own video to shine. Usually it's division by division, conference by conference, and those are totally legitimate ways of going about things and probably take a lot less work and save you a lot of time, but hey, I like to do things a little bit differently. Keep in mind, though, because of that time crunch, this intro is pre-recorded. I'm recording this all the way back in May. Who knows how long these videos will take to come out, so just keep that in mind. You know what team you're watching. You don't need me to tell you in the intro. You clicked on the video, you can read the title, you can see the thumbnail. Two quick things to keep in mind. Number one, I'm not a professional. I don't claim to be a professional. I am very much an amateur, so if I disagree with something your favorite team did, I'm not saying I know better than your favorite general manager, your favorite scout, if you're a freak and have one of those. I'm just saying I didn't agree with the pick. I didn't agree with the process. That's my opinion. Feel free to disagree and let me know in the comments below why you disagree with me or agree with the team, whichever it may be. Regardless, the point is, I'm not trying to say I'm better than anybody here. I just have opinions and I like to share them. Also, I have changed my grading scale up from last year, and that is to say that I actually have a grading scale now, as you can see on the screen. This will keep things more uniform, allow me to stay more consistent, and also provide some transparency between me and you as the viewer. So, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into whatever team we're talking about today. I feel like it goes without saying that this was a very, very important offseason for the Kansas City Chiefs, because when you go from this infallible, unstoppable kaiju of a football team that is en route to the first ever three-peat, and at least in NFL history, and then you go out and you get your butts kicked in the Super Bowl and you subject the world to the most insufferable quarterback discourse imaginable, you got to course correct, right? This team needed a strong offseason to reload and come back next year better and stronger than ever. And while they didn't make a ton of massive moves because it really wasn't in their wheelhouse to do so, they definitely did what they needed to do, right? Extending Trey Smith, making sure he didn't leave was massive. I really didn't think that was something they'd be able to get done. I love the George Karlaftis extension. They made sure they kept around some of their other smaller pieces, guys like Mike Pennell, for example, who, while not the sexiest name in the world, definitely plays an important role on this football team. They added Jalen Moore in free agency, which puts you just that much closer to not having to field Jawan Taylor next year. And then also, they had a very, very good draft, starting out with Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State, which in my opinion was the perfect pick for the Kansas City Chiefs. You trade down one spot, you end up recouping a 5th round pick, which later gets traded, and you draft, in my opinion, the second best tackle in this draft, but probably the most talented tackle in this draft. Like, if Josh Simmons had played a full season his final year in college and, instead of going down with a very unfortunate non-contact injury, for me personally, he would have easily been OT1 and a top 5 player in the class. Instead, he does suffer that injury. He fell a little bit for me because there just wasn't as much recent tape on him. And, there were still some things I wanted to see him clean up that he didn't get a chance to. And also, he fell down my board a little bit from like being a probable top 5 player to being a top 10 player, but still very, very good football player. And Chiefs fans are kind of already seeing that in camp, where he is obliterating some of the defensive linemen on this team, making them look like JUCO guys. And obviously, a camp film is camp film, right? If you even want to call it that, just the clips that we're seeing on Twitter and whatnot. But if you go back and watch him at Ohio State, this should not be a surprise. This dude is a freak. He has the frame and the length you want at 6'5", 317 pounds with just over 34-inch arms. He's a fantastic athlete for his size. He has the movement skills to block in space, climb to the second level, or reach block consistently. He's a very smart player who consistently picks up on stunts and blitzes. His balance is great. He possesses great play strength that allows him to move people in the run game. He has great grip strength that when he lands an accurate punch helps him win very quickly into the rep. He possesses good pop in his hands at the point of attack to jolt defenders upward. He maintains really good pad level, and he's good at creating leverage with that, as well as his hand fighting. He possesses good, fluid footwork to mirror defenders in pass pro. He's very flexible. He's able to get his knees bent and set up a very sturdy anchor. I already mentioned that he can move guys in the run game, but he's just a downright nasty player. He looks like he wants to kill the guy across from him every single play as a run blocker. He has great eyes when he's on the move to pick off defenders. And then also on combo blocks, he does exactly what you want to see. He's really good at getting his head on the defender's hip, pushing them down the line, and then getting to the second level. However, on the flip side of things, I already mentioned the non-contact injury, obviously not ideal, but it seems like he's recovering well from that. His hand placement does need to improve. And then in the run game, he can get a little wild, which is going to cause him to miss his landmarks. But both of those things are very, very fixable and very, very coachable. I would say right away, this is the best offensive tackle on the Kansas City Chiefs football team by a decent margin. And if I had to guess, or at least if I had to put my 2 cents into the conversation about their offensive line, they would be at their best if Simmons was starting on the left side and Jalen Moore was starting on the right side. Again, anything to get Jawan Taylor off the starting lineup, that is not a good football player. Absolutely adore this pick for the Chiefs. This is the perfect pick for them, as I already said. Exactly the kind of player they needed, the exact kind of impact they needed, and just fantastic value across the board. Easiest A+ of my life. Just perfect stuff. And then you get into the second round, and they took Norman-Lott, the defensive tackle out of Tennessee. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't love Norman-Lott because I typically want my defenders, especially my interior defensive linemen, to contribute in both phases of the game, right? I want them to be able to defend the run and rush the passer. Norman-Lott is not doing the former, like, at all, but he might have been the best pass rusher in this class on the interior. So I get why the Chiefs like him, because they do utilize role players very, very well. They have a ton of guys on their team who are good at one or two specific things, and they know exactly how to weaponize those things, how to maximize those things, and how to get the most out of those players. So this makes a ton of sense for the Chiefs. I could sit here and I could say, you know, I thought there were better defensive linemen available. I thought there were better guys at this spot, you know, things like that. And I definitely think there were, but none of them do what Norman-Lott does as a pass rusher. So I totally get why this is who they wanted. Taking a look at my notes here, he's got a good enough frame for an NFL defensive tackle. He's a fantastic athlete with notable lateral quickness and agility. He possesses a super explosive first step, allowing him to shoot gaps or dictate contact at the point of attack. He's a very high motor player who can win those second or even third effort reps. And also as a run defender, he's able to chase down ball carriers in pursuit. He plays with a lot of power in his upper body, especially in his hands. He can make a little bit of an impact as a run defender by shooting gaps. He's an excellent hand fighter as a pass rusher. He has a very good arsenal of moves as a pass rusher. He has really good contact balance and body control that allow him to finish plays. That being said, though, it was pretty apparent even in college what his role is as a football player, not as an NFL player, but as a football player. And that is as a designated pass rusher. That was reflected pretty clearly by under 1,000 career snaps across his 5 seasons. It's not like he wasn't getting onto the field. He was, and he was, you know, playing meaningful reps. It's just they weren't putting him on the field on early downs. They were not asking him to play football when it was apparent the other team was probably going to run or had a chance to run. They saved him for big third downs, for plays where they needed some juice on the defensive line, and that's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. When he was on the field, he looked great. It's just, you know exactly what you're getting in terms of his role, and that's okay. Additionally, he doesn't have the bulk you want to see from an NFL defensive tackle. He's got the height and the length, but he's just a little skinny out there, and that's going to be fine given that he's going to be a DPR, but, you know, for the run defense side of things, that's definitely relevant. Getting into that more, though, his gap discipline is terrible. He's going to get washed up and down the line and out of plays pretty consistently. He also can't beat double teams, but I don't think that will be something he's faced with at the next level, considering he'd be playing next to George Karlaftis and Chris Jones. His run diagnostics as a whole are very underwhelming, so while he can shoot gaps and make plays in the backfield, he doesn't always see the right gap to shoot, if that makes sense. He also needs to further develop his counters as a pass rusher. That's definitely fixable pretty quickly. It's just something that needs work. Tackling was also an issue. His missed tackle rate was at a 33.3% in 2024, and that's simply not okay at the NFL level. Also, penalties were a problem. He was penalized 12 times across 2 seasons at Tennessee, so you definitely want to see him clean that up. Obviously, some may joke that that's not an issue for the Chiefs, considering the refs don't like to call flags on them, but I'm not one of those weirdos. Don't worry, Chiefs fans. I like you guys. I don't think you're like the refs' golden children or whatever. But that being said, this pick makes a ton of sense to me because on early downs, you can put a guy like Mike Pennell or even Fabian Lovett. I would like to see get some run in this Chiefs defense. One of those two guys can play next to Chris Jones on first, second down. Then you get into like a 3rd and 7. It's pretty obvious the other team's going to throw the football. You throw norman-lott out there, and he is going to wreak havoc next to arguably the best defensive tackle in football. So I really like this pick for them. Makes a ton of sense. I will say also, normally I wouldn't be as high on a pick like this. Normally I don't like seeing a role player get taken in the second round. You want to get like an impact starter. But that being said, with Kansas City, knowing how they deploy some of these role players and knowing that they know how to maximize that talent, I definitely see why they would like a guy like norman-lott. So no complaints there. Good pick. Jumping forward just 3 picks into the 3rd round, they ended up taking Ashton Gilletti, the edge rusher out of Louisville, sticking on the defensive line, using the pick that they got for L'Jarius Sneed from the Titans. And I'm going to be honest, I have went back and forth on this one quite a bit because norman-lott, for a lot of the same reasons that I like him in that pick, I do like the Gilletti pick for the Chiefs. You know, he's another role player who I think they will be able to deploy very, very well. However, this was early for me. I thought Gilletti was pretty firmly a day 3 prospect. And also, there were 2 guys on the board that I just don't think you can pass up on in Landon Jackson and Princely Umanmielen. Those 2 are going to be studs at the next level. I have a lot of faith in them. Whereas Gilletti, he's going to be a good early down run defender, but I don't see him as really much else. He'll be able to contribute a little bit as a pass rusher, but not a whole lot. So taking a look here at my notes on him, he's undersized at, 6'3", 264 pounds with under 32-inch arms. So he's got the bulk you want to see, but his height and more specifically his arm length are both not very good. However, because of that bulk, he does have a good power profile. He is a high motor player who never takes a play off. Like, he is always going at 110%. He's going to make his money as a run defender, as I said, thanks to his play strength, stout anchor, great run diagnostics, and consistent pad level that give him the ability to stack and shed, as well as consistently make plays in the backfield. He's also really, really good at setting the edge as a run defender. As a pass rusher, he can win in a couple different ways, in spite of not being much of an athlete, which we'll get into, but he has a solid little bag of pass rushing moves. His bull rush is really, really nice. And his hand usage is strong, it's active, it's accurate. That's going to help him not only as a pass rusher, but as a run defender as well. However, on the flip side of things, he's a stiff athlete who doesn't have good bend. He can't explode off the line. His first step is very underwhelming. His lateral movement's very underwhelming. He's just not much of an athlete, right? He's a good football player, but he's not much of an athlete. I will say this is very refreshing, given that the Chiefs, especially in these day 2 picks over the last couple years, have prioritized the opposite, going for athletes as opposed to football players. So I do like the fit for Kansas City, and honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to bump it up to a B+, because I do believe that getting a guy like this was important for them. I just feel like there was a lot of meat left on the bone. I should also mention with Gilletti, the length is horrible. I know I already brought it up, but I do need to reiterate, under 32-inch arms is very, very bad. His ability to contain against mobile quarterbacks is very bad, which is also concerning, given that you will be playing Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen at least once a year, pretty much. And also, just as a whole, his ceiling is low. But bringing him in as an early down player is fine. Again, I like that they said this is a good football player. Sure, he's not an athlete, but we'll take that. We just need guys who are going to contribute right away. Gilletti will absolutely do that. And also, I can definitely see a world where he's starting next to Karlaftis sooner rather than later. So I can't get too mad at this pick, which, again, I'm bumping it up to a B+ from a B. But I do feel like leaving Uman, and Jackson on the board is not a great decision. And again, the value just wasn't there for me with Gilletti, but good pick. Can't complain too much. Then, just 19 picks later in the third round, they trade up and take Null Williams, the corner out of Cal. And this is easily one of my favorite picks of the draft, period. Right? I love Null Williams, and normally I don't do this, but I do have like a little write-up for every player that was on my board in my notes. And I'm just going to read off what I've written down about Null Williams because I feel like this perfectly encapsulates what I feel about this player. So, again, straight from my draft board, Null Williams is a very fun projection because I could genuinely see him playing any position in the secondary at the next level. As a safety, he has the field vision and zone IQ, as well as the run support and ball skills to make plays on the back end, either downfield or while coming downhill. As a nickel corner, those traits apply, but he also has really solid footwork and man coverage that can make him a movable chess piece for a defense. And then, if you take everything I've already mentioned, and then also account for the fact that he is a physical press corner, while also factoring in his true alpha mentality, desire to erase the other team's top wide receiver, and the fact that he has played in multiple different coverage schemes, he has the ability to be a strong boundary corner. His athletic tools will likely determine where teams see him, as his lack of top-end speed may force him into the nickel to avoid having to carry wide receivers downfield. Either way, Williams can be a reliable piece for any defense and, at worst, will be a very good special teamer at the next level. He is easily worth consideration on day 2, and it would not shock me to see him in the Pro Bowl within 3 years. I love Null Williams. This was such a great pick for Kansas City. When you look at their secondary, you obviously have Trent McDuffie, who is a superstar. Outside of him, it's a lot of role players. At least in the corner room. I do like their safety room, but specifically at corner, it's a lot of role players. Null Williams, to me, easily has Pro Bowl upside. And not only that, reminds me of my favorite corner in football in Jalen Johnson, who is one of the most underrated players in the league. If Null Williams can clean up his tackling a little bit and get a little less grabby in man coverage, this kid can be a stud. This can be like a home run type pick for the Chiefs because he truly can contribute in every feasible way for an NFL corner. If you get him to do that, you pair that with McDuffie, watch out. I'm very, very excited to see how Null Williams is going to develop. Obviously, third round pick, maybe other people won't have as high of expectations. And even then, I wouldn't say my expectations are super high, but the sky is the limit for Williams. I do think it is floor, though. He can be a quality, starting corner. Maybe not a star, but definitely someone that you feel comfortable starting. But that ceiling, man, that ceiling can be super, super high. So again, this is someone that can come in day one, be a starter, be a quality player, but also has a little bit of upside to explode and be a star. Then on day 3, their first pick, Jalen Royals, the wide receiver out of Utah State. I like this one well enough. This receiver room for Kansas City has obviously been trying to find some sort of identity since Tyreek Hill left, and Jalen Royals is a good football player. 6 foot, 205 pounds, someone that I had a late 3rd to an early 4th round grade on. You get him at the tail end of the 4th round, so the value is definitely good. He has a bulky frame that greatly improves his physicality at the catch point and after the catch. He's a nuanced route runner who understands leverage and can work wrinkles into his routes to throw off defenders. He has strong hands with a very solid catch radius. He's able to pluck the ball out of the air. He's capable of climbing the ladder to make tough catches when contested. He works back to the ball in an aggressive, timely manner. He has great body control to contort himself for tough grabs. He tracks the ball well downfield. And after the catch, he runs the ball like a damn running back. That being said, though, doesn't have like true breakaway speed to separate downfield consistently. He needs to work on his release packages and hand usage at the line of scrimmage. As a result, he's not very good at beating press coverage. His run blocking effort leaves quite a bit to be desired, and also he's coming off a major foot injury from 2024. What's really interesting to me about Jalen Royals is the way his projection, I feel, plays out. Because in college, he was placed into like a Tyler Lockett role where he was being asked to play as a deep threat and, just try to explode downfield. But that's really not his game. He is like a prototypical get him the ball quick, let him cook after the catch kind of guy. Rely on him on some intermediate routes as well. But he's not somebody you're throwing up fades and posts to. That's just not really his game. That's what they had him doing, but I do think his skill set fits very, very well into, that kind of, I don't want to say gadgety role, but definitely the kind of role that receivers in Kansas City thrive in. So I love this pick. It's a very, very good fit for them. It's a damn good player. Definitely can't complain about this one. Looking at his place in that receiver room, right away being a wide receiver 3 or 4 is definitely a fitting role. Kind of depends on what ends up happening with Rashee Rice, which one he'll start as, but for the bulk of this season being your number 4 wide receiver, I think that's great. I think he'll pretty easily beat out Juju and Sky Moore for that spot. And I'm really excited to see how the Chiefs will use him, because obviously we haven't gotten to see his skill set used to its maximum potential yet. And now Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have a chance to be the first ones to truly unlock what he has to offer. Then in the 5th round, they took Jeffrey Basa, the linebacker out of Oregon. And I thought this was a good pick. Don't have a ton of complaints here. I will say just up front, the reason this is a B+ and not higher is because I thought there was a better linebacker on the board in Sean Dolak, who was very similar in terms of his build and athletic profile. He was just a much more polished player who was more of a standout prospect to me. So I will say that is going to knock them. Because to me, if you're going to take an undersized linebacker, Sean Dolak was the best one in this class by far. In fact, I thought he was one of the 3 best linebackers in the class. But that's besides the point. Taking a look at Basa as a prospect, very high character dude who was often praised for his leadership and ability to help teammates get set up pre-snap. In terms of his frame, like I said, he is short, but he's got good length and bulk for an NFL linebacker. He's a very high motor player who always runs red hot in pursuit. He has good form as a tackler. He does a good job reading the quarterback in coverage and anticipating throws. He flies to the ball and plays well downhill as a gap shooter and run support. His fluid hips help him mirror pretty consistently in man coverage, and he just has the energy and tackling form you want to see from a potential special teamer. Obviously, the last couple rounds here, that is something you got to consider. That being said, undersized, as I already mentioned. As a run defender, he's not instinctive, and he doesn't have good diagnostics. They're kind of mediocre. Additionally, against the run, he struggles to maintain gap discipline. His ability to stack and shed is underwhelming, and his zone IQ is even more underwhelming, as he can get caught with his eyes in the backfield and often be late to his spot. So in other words, he is a fine linebacker with clear flaws in both phases of the game, who's not like some exceptional athlete or anything. He just screams to me like LB3, someone who's going to be the 3rd most important linebacker on your football team. And honestly, given the Chiefs' depth chart, that is a very possible role for him. I don't think he's going to beat out Drew Tranquill for the weak side linebacker spot, but that is where I would most project him. I think that is the role he would fit best. Obviously, with Nick Bolton, Tranquill, and then Leo Chanel, my GOAT. I don't think he's going to get much PT as a rookie. Maybe in certain packages, or if one of those guys needs a breather or something. He's a fine backup. I also can't complain about the value. I had a mid to a late 5th round grade on him. You get him here at the end of the 5th round, or towards the end of the 5th round. Not a pick I can complain about. It's just like I said, I really thought Sean Dolak would have been a home run pick for this team here. Instead, they get somebody who I think is a pretty fine pick for them here. And then finally here in the 7th round, they took Bashard Smith, the running back out of SMU, a converted wide receiver. And I love this pick. I had a mid-3rd round grade on Smith. He was one of my guys. Getting him here in the 7th round is tremendous value. Only 21 years old. He's such a fun running back. Ran a 4.39. He is like a peak scat back. He has legit sub 4.4 speed. He's explosive out of the backfield and in space. He has really good short area quickness to switch gaps and make defenders miss behind the line. He shows better contact balance than you would expect from someone with his frame being only 5'10", 194 pounds. He has great vision once he hits the second level with flashes of quality vision behind the line of scrimmage. He's very light on his feet with the ability to make sharp cuts and force defenders to miss in open space. His former wide receiver background is very evident in his tape with natural hands and his versatility to align outside as a receiver if needed. He's a very smooth route runner with great footwork and a great route tree for a running back. He was also a dynamic return specialist at Miami before he transferred with the ability to be the same at the NFL level. Now, that being said, his frame is definitely less than ideal. Again, 5'10", 194 pounds. Only 1 year of truly notable production at the running back spot. Ball security was certainly an issue. His leg drive is lacking and is going to hurt his usefulness in short yardage situations, but the Chiefs employ Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco, and Carson Steele for a reason. Don't think you're going to be asking him to run the ball between the tackles like that. He lacks any sort of notable power profile. His vision, while there are flashes of really good stuff behind the line of scrimmage, it's definitely not consistent by any means. He's often found hesitating behind the line of scrimmage as well, and because of his frame and probably lack of true experience as a blocker, he's not a good blocker. But if you're asking him to block, you're misusing him because, again, this is a wide receiver playing running back. He has an expansive route tree. His hands are great. This is a weapon out of the backfield. You take a look at the Chiefs depth chart right now. He's listed as RB4, but he's easily the best pass catcher they have in their backfield. Definitely someone who's going to get work on third down in my eyes. In fact, this reminds me a little bit of what they tried to do with that rugby player, Reese Zammit, or however you said his name. That guy came in as just kind of like an athlete in their receiver running back room. Someone who, they wanted to just see what he could do with the ball in his hands, that type of thing. Bashard Smith strikes me as a better version of that. So getting that, adding that kind of weapon to your offense is super exciting. And again, on special teams, as a return specialist, I think, honestly, he has potential to be a stud there. I know Nico Remigo is currently their returner, but we'll have to see how that plays out. I think he could definitely steal that spot from him. But as a whole, I really like this class for Kansas City. I'm giving it an A. Thought it was one of the better classes in the league for sure. Guys like Simmons and Omar Norman-Lott and Gilletti and Null Williams, I really think are going to be starters in some capacity from day one, or at least in Norman-Lott's case, a notable role player. I don't think you can really call him a true starter, but you get my point. You heard what I had to say about him. I think he will be a third down specialist, a third down starter, someone that is definitely going to contribute for this team. And then Jalen Royals, I'm excited to see what he's going to look like now that he's going to be able to get to use his skill set to its maximum. Jeffrey Basa, I think, will be a fine depth linebacker. And then Bashard Smith, again, I'm super excited about. He was one of my guys in this class. I absolutely adore what he brings to the table, and I think Kansas City is a beautiful, beautiful landing spot for him because they can maximize that receiving upside he brings to the table. But all that being said, that is going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, please make sure to leave a like down below, as it does help out the channel a ton. It shows your support, it shows you care, and I really do appreciate it. Also, make sure to let me know down in the comments below what you thought about this class. Am I too high, too low on anybody? Were there maybe any UDFAs that I didn't mention that you're a fan of? Issa Pohl was someone that I watched, but honestly, him being a UDFA wasn't super surprising to me. Older developmental prospect, good frame. Maybe there's something there. We'll have to see. Just another offensive tackle that could potentially keep Jawan Taylor off the field, and that is a big win in my book. But, anything like that, definitely let me know down in the comments below. And also make sure to subscribe for more NFL content coming your way throughout the offseason and into the regular season. We're getting real close. I'm running out of time on these draft grades, but, I'm very excited, and I hope you're all excited as well. I'll be doing film breakdowns throughout the season. Love doing that kind of stuff. Who knows? Maybe we'll be talking about the Chiefs. Very good possibility. They're a great football team. They've got some players I like, so those two things typically end up in me doing some sort of video about them. And if I do, you definitely won't want to miss it. And again, I already said it, but it is the most important thing. I hope you all enjoyed. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, night, afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you enjoy it because you're all wonderful people and you truly do deserve it.
Had a chance on the throwback.
This was an ill-advised throw. What an unbelievable catch by Cole Kmet. And he cups it too. No movement when he hits the ground, tucked up against his shoulder. Wow.
Using that